Guys, I'm listening to some jams right now. It's great. It's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. But we are back. Welcome back to the Code Chronicles. Today, what do we want to do today? So I think leaving off of yesterday's progress of just cleaning up the Kanban page, making the material good, and before doing more stuff, we got our column collapse. We got this. Yeah, we did some Kanban material yesterday, and I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you again for watching. The channel is still continuing to grow, and for me, it's a really enjoyable and humbling. It's been a humbling journey for me, so I appreciate it as always, and thank you. Okay, busting out the Pelly. Gosh, I like this low fade into the beard, folks. She's Louise. She's Louise, but feeling a little tired today. Didn't get the best sleep last night. So let's go ahead and do what we can do today. So yesterday this was a bit of our UI and UX that we wanted to edit. So that way when we go to a mobile view, we can roughly manage our Kanban still, at least in some sort of sensible way. Maybe additionally, what else we could do is like have a task filter category. So you can select which category of task you want to see, whether it's like the test tasks or the HDC. If you see the little badge right here that goes away, those are kind of our categories, the TES or the HDC or the A dash whatever. Maybe that could be some sort of added functionality down the road we can think about, but I don't want to do that. The thing I want to do today is take things to the next step. We do have one more bug we need to fix, which I think is going to be part of today's build, which is we want to just add some sort of button here to the left and right of the task cards that can pop our task over to the next column or the column to the right or left of it. So let's maybe build for that. Let's think about how to do that. Basically, it's our update function. We just want our status update back. So if I go to do, we should see this task go back to the to do, but we're obviously experiencing an issue. Did it go back to do? Where did it go? Where did it go? Let's see. All right, folks. So it looks like that's working. Which is awesome because I didn't realize it was working, to be honest. So that's great news. We're off to a great start. We are off to a fantastic start. So we can actually edit our tasks, of course. And let's see if I go to pages, go to our API and our task ID. I want all the tasks to get requeried whenever a task gets updated. So the problem here is we're having these broken out in two different files where we have a get function, and then we also have a put, like a delete, a ID, like a backslash route with params. And these params, these tasks, they exist in this folder right here, this task with the sub task ID. So I don't believe this is actually the functions being called here. I think these are the only two functions from this endpoint. And we can check that if we go to our task store. Anything with the endpoint of the slash task ID, this is going to be our parameters, our route parameters. Those are going to this task ID bracket right here. That's what everything is going to right here. So we really want to look at this and think about how to combine these. Combine these two files or somehow query the get tasks whenever the update task happens, which I thought we were already doing because we have get task right here and we can look at the update task, delete task. It looks like we're getting task. Post task right here. We have update task, and then we also have get task. So we do have it. And as well, we have update task status. So I don't know why it doesn't trigger that when we get a successful response here. Let's see. Because it should trigger this, I guess, but oh, you know why? It's going to a different column. So it's still working, but these columns are independent of each other, or seem like they're independent of each other. So that's what our bug is. That is exactly what our bug is. So let's think about how to build for that. Because the columns are acting as their own independent smart columns. Their data is unrelated to each other, even though it looks related, even though it looks like we're building it where we can kind of like navigate one column to the next from a component structure standpoint. They actually are all unrelated. If the data was related, we would have majority of the data existing here, and it would get distributed down to the column components. But the columns themselves are actually really smart columns. They handle a lot of the logic within each column. So when one column is getting updated and triggered or deleted from, it can handle it all within one column. So that's why we see the delete functionality work, because it's deleting out of this column. This one column is handling everything. And it's still even handling, it is technically taking it out of here and putting it in the to-do column. But the to-do column is now a different state. It's a different set of intelligence. It's a different thing. So it's not getting updated. It's not getting re-rendered when this column makes an adjustment. It does when we reload the window, of course, and then it shows what we ultimately need. But we need that action to happen while here, like when we, boom, it needs to pop over here. The item needs to pop over here live. We shouldn't have to refresh it every time. That's not a good user experience. And it's doing that precisely for the reason that I said, because the columns are independent of each other. So, a easy workaround that feels like a maybe easy, like a lighter weight fix, but semi-hacky, would be to pass a function down, like a watcher function, that basically watches if any columns adjust anything, refetch everything for all columns. We can do that, or another approach could be to take the data out of the columns, put the data in the page, and distribute the data down to the columns from the page. So all the data is connected to each other, which also is an adequate thing to do. So let's think. But that sounds like a lot of work. That sounds like a bigger lift right now, because we have a lot of logic associated with these columns, right? We have this thing going on. We got, we can control this state of one thing. We do have all the endpoints working for the columns. So it feels like the easiest thing would not be to do a giant restructure, but to actually consider the Kanban approach. I think that's not a bad deal. And I think the idea is to check the filtered length of task and use that as our watcher. So if the filtered length changes on the filtered task length changes on any of the columns, refresh, requery for all columns. I think that's a fair thing to do. I don't think that's going to be too expensive or demanding. So let's build for that. I think that's an appropriate thing to do. I don't know how to build watchers in React. Watcher functions in React. That's exactly what we want. How to accomplish Vue watchers in React. And all a watcher would do in Vue, it's kind of like use effect when you put something in the dependency array. When you're measuring for the dependency array, especially in React, it goes through the code block all the time. So React is always, if we make changes in this layout, it'll automatically update. In Vue, it actually just goes through the code block once on load, just on load. So you put a watcher there to make it feel live, and you tell it what to watch. If we want to say, some variable, and then you would have your old and new value, and then you can do stuff with them. It'll let you know what the old and new value is. The rough equivalent in React is use effect, but there still is a watch effect in Vue, so I don't think it's the same. And basically, this watcher will trigger console, like whatever function you want, whatever function or thing you need, right? Whenever this some var changes, it'll trigger out this whatever logic or thing you need to do. A use effect is very similar on load, and it'll keep running through the use effect. If we want to say count, right? Like have some sort of count, right? Some count variable. It'll just keep counting. It'll count like incredibly fast, right? It'll keep running through the code block until it hits some limit. You could put rules in the dependency array. If you put a dependency array here, it would only run through one time. It would only run through the code, or at least the use effect, once. But even to that, you could have some other count, which would trigger some count. So if some other count got affected outside of the use effect, it would then trigger some count. So it kind of acts like a subscriber in some sense, and maybe that's what we want to use to check the filtered base column component. So let's pop into base column. Let me close out all these pages actually, and we'll pop back up in base column, and we'll pop up in the Canband. I'm gonna sleep like a baby tonight. Okay, so let's see. Canband page had some sort of error on it. I'm sure it was just because we were playing around. And we ultimately want to pull out the filtered tasks. Where are they? Here's our handle toggle. Here's our filtered task right here. I think we want to pull this out and pass it in. But I'm trying to think how to filter the task per the column. And perhaps we could actually just keep them all. Let's think about it. Because I'm thinking to still have a filtered task function within the column, so it still handles all the column lengths and everything, but we just need to pass some sort of all task function that checks the length of each filtered task. But actually, hold on, maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe we can literally just build something where it just always checks all the lengths of all the filtered tasks. And if they ever change, just requery. Boom, bada bing. I think that would actually work, and we wouldn't have to pull it out of this stuff. I think that would actually work perfect. Because technically the filtered task will change for all the columns still. Even if we pass down the data from the parent, it still would be checking the lengths of all the list, right? All the three lists. But even if we check the filtered tasks from within the base column, the filtered task can still have access to all of the tasks and therefore check all the lengths of the filtered tasks. Excuse me. So yeah, let's think on how to do this effectively. I'm going to pop it back up to the top. Let's close all over these functions. These are working great. Okay, so our filter task right now we have filter task for this column, and what we need to check is the length of the filter task per each column. And if the lengths change, do something. So let's think about it. Let's think about it, right? So I can say use effect. And this can actually be dependent on filtered task.length. Like we said, it's a subscriber to filtered task.length. So if it ever changes, well, actually, could we just not from there actually just get tasks? Folks, this might have been a lot easier of a deal than what I was making it out to be. Let's see if that works. So it did for this column, but it still had the same problem where it didn't check the to-do filtered length. So what we need to do, fundamentally, what we need to do is there's going to be filtered task for to-do, and this will be for column header to-do, and we'll be able to check that length. And then we'll have filter task for in progress. We also need to get the backlog going too, where not everything's in to-do or in progress, but that's a separate issue from here. For done, let's see. Okay, so the idea is now we can check all the lengths here. If I believe. So console log, let's see what we have. Console, boom. I see that the console has a red underline under it. Hold on, folks. Hold on. Okay, let's see. Got a few errors here, no problem. So basically what this is right now doing is, oh, and we're checking all of them. We actually just want to check the length. That's all we want. We don't actually want all of the extra stuff. Don't need it. We just simply need the length. Let's refresh. Let's see. I think I saw it briefly on the way out. So let's see. Boom, 000428. Perfect. So now we have an array basically of any of these numbers. If any of those numbers change, we should have all of them refetch. But I guess the problem still comes from how do we make the other columns refetch? So we may need to end up pulling it out and put this logic in the Canband page. I think. So let's maybe shoot for that actually. Let's see if we can do that. So we need to import use effect, right? Import task store. Boom, let's see. Import task, where's task store? Did I miss it? I feel like I missed it 4 or 5 times. Task store, task status, use effect. Huh. Oh, there it is, task store, boom. Right in my face. Okay, so boom, task store, here we are, and we need to instantiate it. So const task store equals not new task store, but just task store with a with it instantiated. And then we have all these errors. We just need to import from Prisma. It's going to be our next deal. So stores, right? And we can import task and task status from Prisma client. Those are our types, and it's so nice that we have that we can easily handle our types, not a problem at all. Oh, and then of course we have filter task.length. And what we can do is maybe say filtered task for to-do.length. Oh, that's going to be an infinite array, or excuse me, an infinite loop. Thinking, folks, I'm thinking on how this is going to work, right? Maybe we can get away with it in the base column, potentially. Let's see. So if filter task ever changes, it should refetch, right? If any of these lengths ever change, but it's still okay. So I see. So if any of these lengths ever changes, what it needs to be, not filter task. Okay, I see. That's exactly what it is. So I feel like there's a way to not have it so verbose either. So we will ask our trusty intern in a moment here, but we can say filter.todo, boom, and filter.progress. Boom, and filtered here, boom. So I think that'll be the solution. So it's going to monitor if any of those three numbers change, refetch. So let's see if that works. We have our use effect. We'll optimize in a sec. Right now we have 428, and it should now be 338 by this. Let's see. Changed, boom. Worked like a charm, folks. Worked like a charm. And now that task is over here, live, beautiful, and we can put it back to do. Let's see. Didn't work like a charm. It worked like a charm the first time. Why did that work so good and then not, you know? Let's try it one more time. So I feel like maybe we need to await something, right? Let's see. Let's think about it. Okay. Let's ask our trusty intern. Let's try it out. So is there a way to streamline and optimize this? That's what I'll ask. Optimize this. I am just trying to watch, right? The lengths of these filtered tasks, and if they change, I want to refetch. I want to update the columns accordingly by refetching. Here is the code I have. Boom. Let's see what chat can do. Okay. Filtered by task status, okay. Const filter. I don't know if I like it, folks. This is what it roughly says to do. So let's try to update to in progress. Give it a go. Give it a go. Let's see. Okay, got it out of this column. So it's now, we now know the length for to do has changed. So all columns should refetch. Should. Because all columns still access all of these things. So each column still should have access to this. Every column should know the length of to-dos. And I know we just saw it update, and it should have the same length. So I guess the reactivity maybe isn't connecting all the way right now. So let's try to do this. So we go back to do. So this column now knows 428, but the other columns don't know. I thought they would. And I suppose that makes sense because we are controlling the data within the columns still. So the easy workaround is pass the data on the page. And maybe that is what we do. Maybe that is what we do. I'm just hesitant. I want it to work in a way where it's independent from the page, because what if we use these columns elsewhere? So I wonder if there's a way we can do this in the store that kind of does the same exact thing here. And just exist in the store. That might be the workaround. Let's see. So would I reference the task store here? Would I reference tasks? Still, I would probably reference tasks, right? Right? Okay, so I think that's roughly optimized. Let's look at this, delete this. Don't need those three anymore. They don't exist into the store, or excuse me, onto the page. And let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do with this. So I think this logic is going to potentially work better because we now know all these things from a store standpoint, from where the data is being held standpoint, and all the data is being fetched down. But it looks like it's not working here. So status tasks, let's see. Array is array. Oh, because you know what? We don't fetch quite yet. Let's see. Let's think about it. Four to 8. Okay. And if I pop it over to in progress, let's see. Should trigger a. So it triggered it for this column, but it should do it for all columns. 338, right? I feel like that should be the same thing for all columns. So we might have to end up just doing the original plan, which was going to be pass it from the page, but I just don't like it. I really don't. I don't like doing that. I want the components and state to be independent from the pages. The pages I really want to be this like really just like layout. We just organize where everything is. Like if we look at the dashboard page as it is today, I guess there's a little bit going on here, but we have basically like no logic, right? Like nothing. Like the task table, all the tasks, they're associated to this component. The completed task, the project percentage component here, the project completion, all the logic and everything's handled within that component. So I don't want to dirty up. Oh, looks like we need to rename that as well. It's base project percentage. And this is where all the heavy hitting stuff lays and lives. So I want the same thing to be with the base columns. That's what I like about this setup, is because I can now in any page, I can pull this component. Doesn't matter what page it's in. It has no strong tie to the page it's in. The component, if we want to use it on a settings page, on something else, on, let's say we build a user's dashboard and maybe there's an admin version as well. So there's like different features and functionalities. Then we can just pull these components in and not have to worry about them too much. We might have to edit a few things, but it becomes a lot easier to do. So I love it. I think that's the way to ultimately think about these columns and think about the state and the data. But you can see the obvious challenge that we're looking at, which is the reactivity of it, because it seems like the idea of this, I feel like it should have worked, right? Where we're simply just monitoring, especially when it was in each column. I really feel like that would have worked or should have worked, because we were monitoring, right? And we still are monitoring, right? Like the lengths of each column. So if any column changes in length, we should be able to refetch. That's all this is saying. So console.log.boom. We have 338, right? Then it should be 428, right? 428, boom. So it knows it's updating in the column, right? So I'll put that there again. Let's see, BR, boom. And boom, last one. Okay. So we could see the live update of it, and then boom, it just registered it after I saved the code block on the left side. Then it refetched, right? So there's got to be a way that this can subscribe. Because it's updating, it's live updating, so it knows that the column itself has changed. And I thought if it re-triggers a task store get task, it would re-trigger all 3 columns doing it. That's basically what I want to do. So that's why I guess it doesn't. Because it should be updating the data. It should be changing the. Maybe if we set this to nothing, right? Just an empty array, and then it updates. Is that what we need to do? So it sets an empty array, and then it updates. And then let's put this to in progress. Let's see. Boom. So it clears out the array. It updated, but it didn't it updated here. Like this 4 is representing this column. This 8 is representing this column. And the 2 is representing this one. So now obviously when we refresh, boom, we're good to go. We can see the 2, 4, 8 on all of them. But it really should trigger. It should trigger on all of them, you know, it really should. So really should, folks. That's interesting. That is interesting. What we can do is keep ironing this out, I guess, but I'm a little frustrated with it. I know the putting it on the page would easily handle that problem, because all the data would be handled and configured on the page, but I don't want to do that, because again, there's going to be also maybe an added functionality where I want to add columns on the fly, where someone can maybe add their own column. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a good idea, I guess, to make the base column itself relevant to the page. I don't like it. I don't like it. I really want the component just to be its own handled, self-contained deal, you know, and roughly independent from each other. But how do they monitor the state of the other columns? And I guess the only way to do that would be to go one scope up, right, where it has to be in the Canband page or on the task store, technically. So maybe what we could do is associate these with an index. So this is going to get a little bit testy, a little nerdy, guys. Let's see what we can do. So let's see. We'll say const column headers, and I'm going to say to do in progress. Basically, pull out all of our column headers and done. And instead of having them here like this, let's map out column header. Boom. We can map and say column header. And the reason why I'm doing this, let's see. And instead of popping it in here, we can say base column right here, and column header. What does it equal? Boom. You guessed it. You guessed it. Our column header. I guess technically that would be how we can consider the functionality of adding a new column, because we just add a new column by adding a new thing here. And boom, it'll pop open a new column, or should, right here. So that would technically, I guess, be how to add the new column, or potentially one approach to it. And what I could do is append an index to each column and monitor, maybe we won't call it index, but column index, just so we're good to go, right? So we say column index, and I'll even call this column index. Typically I do IDX. I got it from, what's his name? The Clement. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's the Google engineer on YouTube. He's 100% why I do IDX now, but we won't do it here. We'll be a little more explicit. We'll say column index, and the column index should now be 0, 1, and 2 for the top of the deal. So we can say column index, and boom. So column 0, column 1, column 2. And my brain was naturally going to say, oh, whoops, I put string for number. My brain was naturally going to think, if in the store we can measure whatever column fired off, trigger the others or something like that. I suppose. But that does feel like a really roundabout way. But the upside is we do have that now. Potential here is new column, right? We can just pop it in the array. Boom. So what that might look like is we can have a function say add columns, right? And maybe we have like column name. And this could be the string. And we can pop in column headers. Maybe it would be column shift, column name, potentially. Is shift, is that the... I guess we can do that, right? And then we'd have a button, right? And have some input to define the column name. So this could be like add new column or some plus sign, right? Let's just see if we can even get it working like this. We'll try here in a sec. So add new column, and let's just hard code a new column here. Let's just see. Boom. Oh, on click. Did I spell it wrong? Add column. Okay. I guess we could go use state. And instead of const column headers that way, we could say const column headers set column headers, right? Use state. Looks like this will be some sort of string with an array. And we can actually steal this and default it into our column headers. So that should work still. Give it a sec to update, and boom, we still got our columns, but now they're with state. They're associated to a piece of state. So instead of column headers.push, we can maybe do set column headers, and we can actually say old columns. Old columns, right? Plus column name, boom, just like that. So and this is where we can actually pass in, right, like a new input, like a const column name, set column name. Let's see. And this would be column name that gets passed into here. And we can have an input now to actually name the new column. So we could have value, which would be column name. And the on change would be e.target.set column name, or excuse me, e event to set column name e.target.value. So boom, type string parameters not assignable to set action. It should be. We're messing with a string here. So boom, that handles that. And string, potentially. Maybe we can't have them named the same, right? Or we just need to instantiate it, start it. So let's see, test. All of our text are white right now, so we can't see what we're typing into our input. We'll say text black just to allow us to text. Boom. Okay, so test, boom, add new column. That's pretty cool, folks. We just added new functions, right? Boom. So now we can have columns that we can name them whatever we want. And technically, right, if we could put the column status, this list needs to model the column headers. That's correct, folks. We're doing the do. We are doing the do, folks. So we're getting pretty convoluted here. Got quite a ways away from the reactivity problem, but this is a little more fun, right? Let me get this out. Let's ignore that for now. Okay, and obviously I don't want them stacking like this. I really want them to scroll left and right up until we want to do flex wrap or something like that. But like no different than our project percentage component. I think this is really perfect where it can scroll left and right. So maybe we do something like that as well. I'm trying to think how we would do this. Okay. Let's pop it in here and I'll wrap this component with it. And that's absolute. So we actually want to make the parent of those two components relative. And boom, there we go. Now we just, of course, need to make it a little bit wider. I think this one width full. So now every new column we add, and we can always add this at the tail end of it too. So all that stuff should go here. Yep, add new column, right? And maybe we make it a modal with like a little pop-up button. But the idea is we can at least, but we do lose that functionality with the height thing. So we'll need to mess around. We'll need to muck around. You know what I mean? We'll need to muck around, but we are adding new functionality, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool, folks. But I guess that might change our schema in Prisma, because do we have task status as? Oh no, that's what we did with the model originally. Was we only had in progress to do and done. We had it as an enum value, right? To do, let's see if those still exist. Right here, boom. That's what we originally had. But if we're going to do this thing where we can dynamically add new columns and stuff, we technically can't make it an enum unless we want to hard code, like, have a fixed amount of columns. Like you can maybe only add 7. But and maybe we do want to do that, like only limit it to 7 total. And that would just be an easy return statement. If column headers dot length is greater than 7, just return. So let's see, we got 4 or 6 right now, excuse me. So let's add another. And let's add another. And should stop at some point. Boom, right here. So we can kind of hard code it to say like you can only have 7 columns or 6 columns or something. Not a problem. If it's greater than or equal to 5, let's cancel out the columns. But then I guess ultimately we'll have to store this piece of data in the database as well, because we can't keep it as a piece of state. So but this is going to get kind of cool then, because then we can have a really dynamic thing for people, whatever they need. Who am I to say in progress and to do and done? Maybe they want, other categories. Now, the only thing that we would have to change to or take in consideration is we're measuring by the last indexed column. So right now it's the done column, but maybe instead of measuring the done column for project completion, we would measure by